Welcome back to Muggle Snuggle. Just close your eyes and listen. I'm your host Nigel, here once more to guide you through a particularly dusty and obscure corner of the wizarding world, a corner so quiet, so still, you could hear a flobberworm drop, a perfect corner for sleep. Tonight's topic is a theory that has lingered at the very bottom of a very tall, very precarious stack of daily profit back issues for many, many years. It's the theory that Cornelius Fudge, our round, bowler-hatted, perpetually flustered Minister for Magic, didn't just make a mistake in denying the return of Lord Voldemort. No, the theory posits with a weary sigh that Fudge knew, he knew all along. Let your mind wander away from the waking world. There is no rush. We have all the time in the world to sift through these dry, papery facts. Let's begin not with a bang, but with a soft administrative thud. The thud of a minister's briefcase being placed upon a table. Our first piece of evidence, and it is a chilly one, comes from the very night Lord Voldemort was reborn. In the graveyard, Little Hangleton, Harry has just returned, clutching Cedric's body. He is on the floor of Dumbledore's office, and Minister Fudge arrives. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Chapter 36, The Parting of the Ways, Fudge doesn't just disbelieve Harry. Dumbledore tries to introduce Bertha Jorkin's identity, the disappearance of Barty Crouch Sr., the confirmed return of Barty Crouch Jr., and Fudge's reaction isn't confusion. It's a kind of grim, desperate obstruction. He produces a tiny bottle from his pocket, containing the memories of the Dementor who kissed Crouch. He claims the Dementor acted on its own, a convenient, irreversible sciencing. Now, think about that. Think slowly. A Dementor, a creature of pure despair that serves the Ministry, performs a highly irregular, evidence-destroying action on its own initiative, on the very night it matters most, and Fudge has the memory ready, pre-prepared, as if he'd anticipated the need. He says, in that flat, tired text, the Dementors have naturally reacted very badly to the fact that the trust that they have been reposed in has been thrown into question. He blames Harry. He blames Dumbledore. He does not for a single moment consider the truth. Why? The simple answer, the boring answer, is fear. He was scared. But the conspiracy answer, the sleepy little worm that burrows into the ear, suggests something more administrative. What if he wasn't reacting to new information, but to the confirmation of a terrible, long-held suspicion? What if, on some level, he knew the darkness was gathering? Not the specifics, perhaps, not the name, but a coldness, a shift in the wards, a sense of dread that had settled over the Ministry like a fine, greasy film on a potion's cauldron. Let that image settle, the greasy film. This leads us to our second, and perhaps most significant point, the assignment of the Dementors. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Chapter 1, Owlpost, we are told that Fudge, in his capacity as minister, sanctioned the use of Dementors to guard Azkaban and to assist in the hunt for Sirius Black. This is, on the surface, a logical, if grim, security measure. But consider the timeline. This is 2 years before the Triwizard Tournament. 2 years before Voldemort's return. Now, Dementors are attracted to despair, to misery, to dark magic. And they are notoriously difficult to control. Giving them expanded jurisdiction was a risk Fudge took willingly. Why? The official reason is a single, high-profile escaped prisoner. But the theory whispers he was fortifying. He was putting soldiers on a wall he knew would be attacked. A minister who truly believed the world was safe, who truly believed dark wizards were a thing of the past, would not invite those soul-sucking, happiness-leeching creatures into the heart of his ministry. He would see them as an ugly, unnecessary relic. Instead, he embraces them. He lets them cluster at the gates of Azkaban like grey, silent vultures, as if he is stockpiling dread for a coming winter. And that winter, that long, cold winter of denial, was served up by a very reliable courier. Our third piece of evidence isn't a person, but a publication, the Daily Prophet. In Order of the Phoenix, the Prophet becomes a full-time propaganda machine under Fudge's influence. But the seeds were sown earlier. Think back to Goblet of Fire, Chapter 15, Gorbaton and Durmstrang. Rita Skeeter's articles are already twisting truth into sensationalism. But it's the official stance that matters. When Harry and Dumbledore insist Voldemort has returned, the Prophet doesn't just call them liars. It calls them hysterical. It questions their sanity. It runs pieces on Dumbledore's bizarre behavior. It quotes ministry sources exclusively. Now, ask the sleepy question. Who are those sources? Who, day after day, feeds the Prophet a narrative of denial? The theory answers the minister himself. Or, at the very least, his office. It's not just a cover-up. It's a sustained systematic character assassination, a project. And projects, even malevolent ones, require planning. They suggest a pre-existing strategy. A man truly startled by a lie would sputter and deny. A man executing a strategy would release a steady, boring, relentless stream of counter-narrative, just like a bedtime story, over and over and over. Let your mind drift to the people who noticed. People like Arthur Weasley, in Order of the Phoenix, Chapter 7, The Ministry of Magic. Arthur tells Harry that Fudge's paranoia has reached a new level. He's installed a powerful surveillance system in his office. But it's not just against external threats. It's for internal ones. He's afraid of his own people. Why? If you knew a supreme dark wizard had returned, wouldn't you be paranoid? Wouldn't you watch everyone, suspecting them of being a Death Eater, of being compromised? His extreme measures, framed as madness by those around him, could be the overreaction of a man who is not mad at all, but terrifyingly, lucidly aware and utterly, paralyzingly powerless to admit it publicly. So he watches, he polices, he creates a ministry of his own fear. Our fourth example is more subtle. It's in the silence, the lack of investigation. When Harry returns with Cedric's body claiming Voldemort is back, the logical, boring, procedural thing for the ministry to do would be to investigate. Not necessarily believe, but investigate. Send auras to the Riddle House. Check the records of Barty Crouch Jr.'s supposed death. Interview the Hogwarts staff. Perform magical forensics. What does Fudge do? He sends 2 Dementors to attack Harry's memory in a trial setting, Order of the Phoenix, Chapter 8, The Hearing. He does everything to prevent a proper inquiry. The theory suggests this isn't just bias, it's self-preservation. An investigation will uncover threads that lead back to his own inaction, to his own long-standing unspoken awareness. A proper oral inquiry might not just find Voldemort. It might find the crumbs of evidence that were always there, which Fudge had swept under the rug of his own willful, chosen ignorance. So he blocks the inquiry. He protects the official story because the official story protects him. And that leads us to the final, chilling piece of the puzzle. Motive. Why would he do it? Why maintain such a colossal lie? The theory offers a simple, almost tragically human answer. Career, position, the comfortable, warm, familiar weight of the minister's bowler hat. Fudge was not an evil man. He was not a Death Eater. He was a bureaucrat, a climber. He had spent his life ascending the ranks. And when he reached the top, the very top, the idea of having to relinquish it because of a fact, a terrible, world-altering fact, was perhaps more than he could bear. Think of it. If he admitted Voldemort was back, he would have to lead a war. He would have to make hard choices. He would have to admit his own ministry had failed for a decade. It would be the end of the comfortable peacetime administration he had built. It would mean admitting that Dumbledore, his rival, was right all along. So, perhaps, in the deep, quiet hours of the night, in his private office, Cornelius Fudge looked at his own reflection in the polished surface of his desk and thought, maybe it isn't true. Maybe they're exaggerating. Maybe it was a one-off dark wizard. Maybe I can keep this under control. And that thought, whispered once, became a shield. A shield of deliberate, active, professional ignorance. He didn't know, because he chose not to know. And once you make that choice, you have to defend it. Relentlessly. Boringly. Just like a podcast host describing a conspiracy theory to help you sleep. It all unravels, of course. It unravels at the end of Order of the Phoenix with the battle at the Department of Mysteries. And in Half-Blood Prince, Fudge is a diminished figure, trailing Scrimgeour, a ghost of his former self. He got his proof. In the end, he saw the Dementors attack Harry in the trial. He saw the Strills. He heard the truth from witnesses he couldn't discredit, and it was too late. The lie was too big. The damage was done. So what does this sleepy theory mean? It doesn't mean Fudge was a villain. It means he was a man who let fear and pride and the love of a quiet life curdle into a catastrophic blindness. He wasn't working with Voldemort. He was working very hard to keep the world from believing Voldemort existed, because that belief would unravel his own. And there is a kind of sad, boring poetry in that. The most powerful wizard in the government, not undone by dark magic, but by a memo, a desire to keep things as they were, to keep the ministry running, to keep the paperwork flowing, to keep the world from getting messy. Let that thought settle over you, like a heavy, soft blanket. The grand, dark conspiracy of Lord Voldemort, almost defeated in its infancy by the sheer, mundane stubbornness of a bureaucratic coward. It is profoundly unromantic, and perhaps for that very reason, it is a little bit true. The details can keep you awake if you let them. The quotes, the timelines, the specific chapter names, but if you just let them blur, let them become a soft hum of possibility, they can be quite soothing. The idea that the great evils of the world are sometimes enabled not by monstrous malice, but by quiet, administrative failures, by a man in a bowler hat who simply couldn't face the paperwork that came with the end of the world. So let it go. The theories, the evidence, the whys and the hows, they are just words, just Nigel talking softly in the dark about old books. Close your eyes now. Sleep well. Good night.